Imagine that you are the person who was carrying that large window pane that now lies in shattered shards around your feet. You look at the pieces in dismay because you realize that you can no longer put these pieces back to their former smooth, translucent self. But suddenly, a smile lightens your face. You smile because you see forms of mosaic art that these pieces of glass can form. You see that because now you're looking at the spaces between the pieces of glass. I'm Dr. Frank Douglas, the CEO and founder of Safe Haven Dialogues. I'm also the host of the Reframing for Resilience podcast. In this podcast, we discuss with guests experiences that they've had in which they have used different perspectives to solve problems. And we hope that as you hear these experiences, you will get to flex your resilience muscle. Welcome. It's good to see you again, Nicole. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I'm looking forward to our conversation. As we get started, tell me a little bit about your journey. I know you were at Disney at one time, and I
Yes.
remember, as a matter of fact, paying a visit to Epcot Center with my team, and we actually visited the innovation group, and it was
Ooh.
just incredible. So tell us a bit about your journey.
So I started with the Disney store in 2005. I was a store manager for them, and I was there for about almost 5 years. The Disney store was then sold to the Children's Place, and we had 1 year to transfer to keep our seniority and stuff. So I took the chance and moved to Florida. I left my home in Maryland, sold my house, uprooted my husband, and we came down here in 2005 to Florida, and I worked in the parks. I was an hourly cast member for the first 10 months I was here. So that was definitely a big change for me because I had been salaried since I was about 16 years old, different jobs that I had. So after 3 years of being in the Disney store, downtown World of Disney, I went to the spas. I heard that there was an opening for Disney spas and salons. There's 7 locations across property, and they were looking for a guest service manager that was seasoned with the Disney culture. And then, 2020 happened, right? COVID happened. I was laid off after 20 years of being with Disney, and it was very hard, and I know it was hard for a lot of people because a lot of people lost their jobs due to COVID, right? But for me personally, I thought I was set at Disney. I was going to retire, I was going to continue to make magic and love every minute that I was there and continue my leadership journey. But, there were other plans for me that at that time I didn't see. So I applied for 201 jobs. And this whole time we're keeping in touch. Joe's keeping in touch with me. Dan's keeping in touch with me. Our other leader that was with us at the spas, Alicia, she was in touch with me. And I remember I was on a text message and I was like, guys, I'm so defeated. It's 201 jobs. What am I going to do? I don't know anything else. At the time, I thought I didn't know anything else. Let me rephrase that. I thought I didn't know anything else. Other than Disney and what that looks like. And Joe texts me on the side and he's like, hey, my brother is opening up a mortgage brokerage. Do you want to come over? I think that your talent and your skills will help us grow the business. And I was like, well, all right, sure, I'll come over. So I met with John and, he learned a lot about me at that time. I knew a little bit about John just from like the family interactions of different birthday parties and things, go to Joe's kids' birthdays and stuff. And started my mortgage journey. I was a commission-only employee as a loan officer assistant. So basically I was just helping, make sure that credit reports were there, pre-approval stuff like that. Had no clue what I was doing, right? I had 20 years in leadership at Disney. I mean, I had a mortgage, I paid it, but that was about as much as I knew about mortgages. And so I had to, rethink and be like, okay, we're going to go all in and we're going to learn this, right? So it was in May that I started there. In October, I was promoted to director of operations, right? So we were just starting out. I was number 5, the 5th employee. I'm proud to say that we now have close to 200 employees spread across 27 different states and counting.
As you know, we begin the podcast using the metaphor of breaking glass, the pieces of breaking glass. And there you had 201 job applications, if you like, 201 pieces of glass. And suddenly you saw something different was presented to you, very different from what you were doing at Disney.
Correct.
Okay. And it fits so well with this image we have, facing problems and then being forced to look at it differently and find a different type of solution. So tell me, now that you have gone from the wonderful world of Disney to within 3 years, building a company from start, 5 of you to now over 200 employees. What are the things that you learned at Disney that helped you?
I had a lot of really just great people that were willing to take me in underneath their wing, when I started at the parks, and really had faith in me that I necessarily may not have had in myself at the time. And looking back on my time at Disney, I see that it helps me prepare to be, to understand that I'm not always going to get it right, to not be afraid to give myself grace, not to be afraid to go ahead and make those phone calls when I have to ask for help. I think that's the big thing that people in leadership and upper management, C-suite, all of that may or may not remember. But, don't forget that you have people around you that you can go to. There are resources. It also, too, opened my eyes on what I could do, what I really was doing as a leader at Disney. It just was such a legacy that I hope I left a positive legacy when I left Disney. And I think I did. But it really helped me grow into who I am right now and what I'm doing with Mpire Financial.
Can you tell us a little bit of what that was like? What went through your mind? How did you make the switch from what you were looking for to embrace this new opportunity?
I think the biggest thing was my trust in Joe and John. That was huge for me. To know that Joe thought that highly of me and my leadership skills, that he saw beyond what I was going to start out to now what I am doing in the position that I'm in, put a lot of faith in me and a lot of trust in me. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I had to learn.
So your trust in them and their trust in you.
Yes.
So an important part of doing something that is different and finding a different solution, what I'm hearing from you is trust.
Yes. And I think, and like you said, it's trust in myself and my ability. It's trust in Joe, who's been a friend of mine for many years, almost 15 years now. The trust that John had in Joe when Joe said, "Hey, listen, I know some people that have some really incredible skills that can help us build this business." And then to think of me, Joe pretty much had, I want to say both of us worked, our last place that we both worked together, there were 4 leaders there. How come he decided to choose me first?
So another part of a transformation of
Hmm.
moving forward into something new that is unknown.
Hmm.
Trust and the decision not to be
Hmm.
halfway about it, but to do it, a
Right.
commitment. So there was trust and you committed.
Yes, correct. And I can tell you, my family was like, "What are you doing?" You know? And I'm like, "Listen, this is something that I want to do. It seems like it's going to be great. I'm going to help build a business, which I've always wanted to do, and be more than just, your regular run-of-the-mill middle management, you know? So it aligned with my goals there. I can tell you that 14 months later, Disney did call all of us, and offered our jobs back.
Mhm.
Uh, and that in that moment, when they're on the phone with you, you think, okay, 20 years, I get my pension back, my health care is covered, my 401k, all that stuff. The additional money that they were going to pay us. I walked into John's office and I looked at him and and he said, "Are you going back to Disney?" I said, "No, I'm not going back to Disney." And I said, "But I'm going to tell you one thing." I said, "We are going to make this work because I just gave up, all this stuff because I have faith in what we're doing here at Empire Financial." And he looked at me and he's like, "Thank you."
What are three things you would say that contributed to your resilience, that you could make that tough decision, given all that you had to do with your family's expectations,
Mhm.
your own expectations, 2, 3 years ago, or a year, actually, it was a year,
Yeah.
a year ago, your own life expectations. And now you're faced with this decision
Hmm.
and you've made a decision and you were very committed to your present path. What contributed to your being able to make that decision?
I think the biggest thing was that after being with Disney for 20 years, thinking that it was the end of the road for me, what am I going to do now? I think looking inside and saying to yourself and really looking at what you've done in the past and say, you know what? I got through X, Y, and Z. I can get through this. I think part of it is being brave, um, to take on something new, to be bold enough to just do it, you know, and honest with yourself. Honesty with, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix it? And, like I always said, I told you, I think in our first time we spoke, I always said that faith, trust, and pixie dust, right? So faith in myself, trust in myself, and trust in others. And there's always a little bit of magic, that comes along with that. Keeping a positive outlook is huge. I think that was one of the things that was hard at the beginning, was to stay positive that I was going to be able to get through this, that I didn't feel like I was abandoned by Disney. Um, and that was like the biggest thing for me, was just being brave enough to take that step. And sometimes that's hard.
Well, it's been wonderful talking with you, and I can hear and I can feel your excitement and
Mhm.
hearing you think about it's about people believing in yourself, believing in people, believing in your community and
Mhm.
relationship with people and all the other things that you bring to it, the technologies, etc. At the end of the day, the
Right.
culture is the relationship with people and bringing
Mhm.
value to them. Thank you for
Yes.
spending this time with us and giving us a sense of resilience, a
Mhm.
sense of changing perspectives, and a sense of how do you reframe when faced with a real life challenge.
Mhm.
Nicole, it's been a pleasant talking with you again.
Thank you so much.